Welcome to A Vault Hunter's Guide to the Borderlands, Episode 2. I'm Drew.
I am Jeff.
And we are here to help you get better at Borderlands. All Borderlands games. A little less on the pre-sequel. It's cool.
We promise we'll stop saying that now that we've said it the last two episodes.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, man, I can't wait for all these tips and tricks on, the pre-sequel, we will let you know when that happens.
Yes.
It's just not today.
It will be one day, but it is not this day.
Yeah, true story. So, cool.
So,
all right.
How was your past 2 weeks in the Borderlands?
It's been good. I actually went back to Borderlands 2 for a little while.
Nice.
You and I got to play some of that recently and advance our playthrough on that.
Yep.
And I went working on with my Axton build, with my Axton explosive build a little bit more. So he's coming along nicely. I've tweaked a couple of things. He's progressing nicely, and I finally got through Sawtooth Cauldron, which is my least favorite part of of Borderlands 2.
Now, do you mean as far as the story, or just like in general, like there's nothing really redeeming about it?
Yeah, is like both. I mean, it's
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like where it fits into the story.
Sure.
Because it doesn't fit into the story, and then I also don't like the gameplay in that area. It's just super frustrating to me. So
Okay. So, but yeah, no, we got to play a little bit. For the record, Drew and I are currently doing a playthrough on Borderlands. I am playing as Krieg. He is playing as Maya, and then we have a third person who's actually my wife, who is playing as Gage right now. So we're doing pretty good with that. We're not super far into that playthrough just because it's hard for all three of us to kind of line up our schedules, but it's going pretty well. I feel like it's a really nice, healthy balance of everything. So
yeah, it's a really good time. I'm playing like support style Maya, with like health and res and
nurse
stuff
Maya.
like that. Yeah, it's working out nicely. We just like a badass shows up. I use phase lock on it, and your wife is shooting, using her anarchy stacks, and it's just going really well. What sucks though is like the rare occasion when like I go to phase lock somebody but I've already used it or something like that, and then I hear like, oh no, and I'm like, what? And it's like my anarchy. We're like, oh man, we're in trouble.
Yeah, let me explain this to you. So my wife is very she definitely wears her emotions on her sleeve. When it comes to video games specifically, video games, or like we also do a lot of tabletop games and stuff like that. She gets very emotionally invested in those. So at one point when we were playing last week, I think it was, we were playing together, and she lost legitimately about 200 stacks of anarchy during a death. Yeah. And she was not happy at all.
Well, and what's funny is like as you play along, you don't realize how much you're relying on another player until something like that happens, and then it's like instantly like, man, this just got a lot harder.
Yeah.
We were leaning on her pretty heavily, so.
Yeah, it was intense, just because she was, well, so, yeah. So to those people who are out there who've played Gage, you know what it is. It's Gage, shotgun, shoot the ground. Yep. So that's where she was at that point. And, it was just doing work. Like, she just had, like, her one-shot, Jacobs, and was doing that, and it was intense. So it was working out really well and everything. And then when you lose that, it is a big piece of that puzzle, that, like I said, that we kind of have going on that really is not there anymore. So, but no, it's going really good. I'm kind of working on a couple other random things at the moment too. Like I said, I'm playing Roland, which Drew is hopefully going to be helping me with that here later, because that's part of our topic today. But I've been playing Roland solo for a little bit. That's fun. Like I say, it's literally my first like solo playthrough with Roland, just to kind of get a better understanding of how he works and a better feel for him and everything. And I'm almost to the point where I'm out of like the Firestone area, like so I mean, I'm out of Firestone and everything, and I've gone and I've I've gotten like I need to go start on fighting Sledge and everything like that, and then I'll be able to leave that area. But I'm still in that phase of it, and it's going pretty good so far. I'm realizing that especially when you're doing it solo, you do need to slightly rely on his turret a little bit more than just trying to do everything yourself as a solo player, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, we'll get into a little bit more, but I think it kind of depends on how you build it. I mean, I feel like regardless of your playstyle, you're gonna want to dip into some of the turret support stuff.
Yeah.
At some point. So.
Yeah.
But anyways, before we get into our play guides for Borderlands 1, let's go ahead and cover the news.
The news.
We have the gameplay event recap to cover first. That was about a week and a half ago. We're recording this on a Sunday, and so there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And Jeff and I have not talked about this to each other at all because I wanted to get all of our feelings out there. Like, I don't know how to word this. I wanted to have the discussion be very natural.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and what he means is like, so I knew that we were going to do this. I knew we weren't going to talk about it specifically for this. So for those people, it's Sunday, May 12th right now, 2019. Yep. It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. You do a good job. And here's the other thing too.
Say hello to your mother for me.
Say hello to your mom for me. So anyway, the other thing is that Drew and I are actual, like, we're literal brothers, like same parents. Like,
yep,
so
both of them.
Both of them. Fortunately, thanks, Mom and Dad. Appreciate that. So, I'm not sure if we've ever shared that before. We talk on about a daily basis, and Borderlands is our favorite series. So for us to not talk about this since May 1st is a huge deal for us.
It's been excruciating. There's been really times where I call you up and we'll be talking about something not even Borderlands related, and they'll be like, yeah, it's kind of like that thing that we saw in the gameplay event, and I'm like, oh, right, can't talk about that yet.
Like, literally, it's to the point, and we were so good about it, I tried to, like, get a little information out of him at one point, like, the day that it happened, and, like, I called him up after work and everything, and I was like, hey, man, did you see this? And he's like, no, like, not yet. Like,
yeah.
And I was like,
yep.
And I was like, well, at least, I just wanted to say it's so good. He's like, nah, I don't want to even know that. I'm like, what? That's like the least spoilery thing I can say is that it's good. He's like, I don't even want to know that. Like,
I didn't, because I might think it sucks ass.
Yeah.
We won't know until now. So,
right.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first and most important thing is the new Vault Hunters. We have Zane, Mose, Flack, and Amara.
Yes. So we've already been through this, like, immediately as soon as we were seeing stuff from earlier before the gameplay event. We already called it. The first playthrough is going to be, it's definitely going to be Drew and myself, and then my wife is also going to play it because, she's also very, very into Borderlands. We've already called it. I'm going to be playing Zane. Drew, you were going to be playing Flack, right?
Yep.
And then my wife is going to be playing Amara because she's for first dibs. Every time we've played a Borderlands game, she's always called the Siren first. That's always been her thing. So, So yeah, super stoked to see that. So getting into that, we saw Amara and we saw Zane, and that's what we saw. So
yes.
So
which to begin with doesn't really surprise me.
No.
Considering the rumors coming out of the Gearbox camp were that Flack was the one that took the longest to fully develop and to correct any kind of to fully flush out, basically.
Yeah, to make everything work like it should have. So
yes,
looking forward to when we do get to that.
Right, and then secondly, Mose is a soldier class. So I mean, not the most exciting of classes typically.
Right. Now, to those people that have listened to the first episode, we do think that Mose looks like the most fun soldier out of any of them that we've seen so far between Mose, Axton, and Roland, because there's a lot of difference there. And again, that goes back to why I didn't play Roland initially, just because it didn't seem as fun as some of the other classes. But getting into that, man, the new action skills.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yep.
yeah, the new action skills look awesome for it. So one note that we have on here is like you get multiple action skills. Now, what that means is, and what we've seen from it is that you have different action skills to choose from, and then you can kind of customize them. So like Amara has like these little orbs that you can kind of grab enemies with, similar to
Very similar to Phase Lock.
very similar to Phase Lock. So and then she also has a slam ability that she can do where she like jumps in the air and then slams down for an area of effect. Again, really cool looking. So, and then she has like a projectile of herself, like almost like a spirit kind of looking thing that she can shoot out of herself. So
yeah, almost like Zero's deception skill.
Yes, but it does damage as well.
Yes,
yeah
exactly. It does physical damage. Out of those three abilities, which one to you is like, ooh, that's the first one I'm going to use when I do a playthrough?
So when I do a playthrough of Amara, the first one I'm going to really try and heavily build around is I'm going to try and go as much as I can into melee Amara, so melee weapons and melee relics and everything like that. And I'm really going to try and go hard in that, so I'm going to choose the slam ability, and really build around it. Yep. So, not that the rest of them look bad or anything like that, but that one just looks so different, especially for sirens and how we've seen them in the past.
Right. I mean, it's just not something that you're used to seeing out of a siren style character, which is super exciting because not only because of from a gameplay perspective, but also just from a social perspective.
Oh yeah,
like, that's just super cool that they're gonna. I mean, she's not. They didn't try to make her look more mannish or anything like that.
No,
she's just a normal looking woman that has glowy tattoos and is gonna beat the crap out of guys, and that's super exciting.
So, I saw someone comment when I was watching the live preview, and granted, the chat was rolling by pretty quick at the time for obvious reasons, because I mean you've got like several thousands of people watching this. Probably, I mean, it was like tens of thousands actually watching this thing as it's going on. Like as soon as she comes on there and as soon as she starts like beating dudes up with her slam and everything, someone was just like, her name is Brick and she is the prettiest.
yeah, for sure. So. All right, cool. Looking at the other player character that we got to take a look at, Zane. What were his abilities? He has the what looks like a drone, basically, that can go out and attack people.
Yep. He's got a drone that can attack people. He also has like a duplicate of himself, a clone. They kept on referring to it as, which again is very much like Zero's ability, but this also damages people. But the coolest thing that I thought, and what I'd really like to build around and see if I can make work, is you can actually at will switch places with your clone. So and what I say when I want to build around that is I would love to have something where I would love to have a weapon that is very, very powerful at close range, but maybe has a slower reload speed to kind of compensate. So, your clone gets close to the enemy, and then you switch out with it. You blast them with like something like a Torgue shotgun or something like that, and then swap.
Like and then a big ass Jacob's Masher style revolver. Or something.
Exactly.
Plap,
and then
plap, and then
Yep. So, and the cool thing too is that what we've seen is that he actually has the ability to have multiple of his in use at once. Like we saw him using his clone, and we saw him using his drone as well at the sacrifice of his grenade. But so you're not using your grenade, but you do get to your drone actually throws out a grenade for you. So you're really not missing out on that much.
Right. I think out of the abilities that we saw from Zane, I like the drone the best because it reminds me the most of my favorite Borderlands 1 playthrough style, which is a Bloodwing based Mordecai build.
Yeah.
Which I think it's my favorite because you got a super short cooldown when it comes to Bloodwing and all kinds of stuff that he can have you grab and everything. And we're gonna get into that next time when we cover Mordecai and Brick in our playthrough guides.
Yep.
But that's just a comfortable starting place for me, and why I'm gonna start as Flak.
Yeah.
So
Yep. The last one that we didn't mention about his, because everyone does have three, is that he does also have a deployable barrier that blocks incoming projectiles. So, and the cool thing is, if you shoot through that, you actually do increase damage.
yeah,
So
which is neat, but I'm not. I gotta admit, I'm not the best about hiding behind stuff as I'm playing.
yeah, especially not in Borderlands.
Yeah, I'm just not. I'm just not super into that, and I don't see myself using that unless I can really, really, use a lot of synergies and maximize that ability.
Right. Like if you're playing, maybe as a sniper or something like that, like a sniper build, and then you're also, maxing out your critical damage because you would if you were a sniper, and then you're only shooting through, you're getting like a very fast fire rate sniper rifle that also does a lot of damage, and you're shooting that through the shield, so it does even more damage to kind of min max that.
All right, fine. You talked me into it.
Ha! Got him.
Man, game's not even out yet. We still got 4 months to go. 4 months from tomorrow.
Ooh. Nice.
So moving on, because we got a lot of stuff to cover in the gameplay event recap.
Yep.
The next thing that we saw is new customizations. So we had heads and skins and stuff like that before, but now we get to change the color. You have emotes and echo themes. So I'm assuming that with color, it'll be similar to how, quote unquote skins worked in Borderlands 2 for the most part.
Yeah.
And so that's really exciting. Like if you find an outfit that you really like and you're like, oh, that thing's sweet, it'd look awesome in red, boom, swap it to red. That'll be really neat.
Yeah. Yep. So we also have new mechanics that were showcased. Borderlands, started, in the very late 2000s, 2009 in, with like PS3, 360 area, or 360 era, that kind of thing. So just a couple of things to bring it into modern days, those being like sliding and mantling. So just make it a little free form, a little easier flow, and a little bit more fast paced when you're doing those kind of things.
Right, as if Borderlands didn't need to get any more fast paced. Now we can slide around and double jump basically and stuff like that. So
right, exactly.
But that'll be really good. I think that's a really good move on their part to bring in, the Call of Duty style crowd and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's everybody who plays those games should already play this anyways, just because it's Borderlands is the best loot and shoot series out there, and I know COD and stuff like that is not a looter shooter style, but you get the fast-paced action of COD, but all the cartoony craziness and all the sweet-ass guns from Borderlands.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And there are so many games in recent history that have already had these abilities. We're talking Titanfall 2 when they did that, and then obviously that same team put out Apex Legends, and then we have the Destiny series, we've got Anthem, The Division, like all these games, have these type of abilities anyway. So it's just kind of, that's one area where I'm really glad that they did decide to kind of keep up with the Joneses, if you will, in that area.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on, we have alternative firing modes for guns. That's super interesting to me, but also a little bit daunting.
Yeah, I think it'll be good just because I think it'll work well because you're not gonna have to rely on switching weapons as much, and I think that'll be nice. The only thing I can see getting a little bit off track is one of the alternate firing modes. I think it was for Atlas, if I remember right, was where you fire the one homing bullet and then all your bullets go towards that kind of tracer or that tracking bullet.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So, and if you forget to do that and stuff, I can see it getting a little messed up. But I think the idea is there, and the idea is like, look, you want to min-max out your stuff that you're doing, so we're going to give you more guns to choose from, but you're not going to have to use as many guns to get what you need. So that way, because we all know how it goes. Like in Borderlands, it's so easy to fill up your backpack.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So hopefully this will negate the need for doing all that. And is it going to help your backpack? No, because you're just going to grab every cool thing that you see anyway. But still, the point's valid.
Right. Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Something that I'm really, really excited about, and that really caught my interest, is the interactive environments that they showed off in the gameplay event. examples were they're running through a map, and there was a barrel there, and Amara punched the barrel, and it flew, however, like 10 yards or whatever in game, landed next to an enemy, and then she shot it and it exploded right next to the enemy. And that's super exciting.
Yeah.
Another one that they had was there was some kind of pipe that was going up, and she shot a valve that was on the pipe, and you see all this oil squirt out, and she shot the oil with a fire weapon, I believe it was, and the oil caught on fire and burned a guy alive. Awesome. I'm really, really pumped about that.
Mm-hmm. So, so all that sounds great. And again, it's just, things that are really cool. The environments that make sense, where it's like, well, there's oil all over the ground, shouldn't this catch on fire? And it's like, yeah, it does, so I think that'll be handy. And I think the ability to be able to punch barrels and stuff will make just things more fun. I don't think they had to put that in there, but I think it'll be more fun from a perspective of how cool would it be to, when an enemy's running towards you, punch a barrel at them, have it knock them down, and then you shoot that barrel and kill them. Just like, that's just fun, plain and simple.
Definitely. What I'm out on is if the enemies can do it to me. If they like punch a barrel towards me, then I'll be like, nah, this is it's not fun anymore.
Then it just becomes the Ganondorf fight from Ocarina of Time, just playing tennis with a barrel.
Yeah.
So
I could get behind barrel tennis.
Barrel tennis. The deadliest tennis. So anyway, there's a couple of things I'm going to go through just really, really quick here, for brevity's sake of this episode. So we have instance loot. Basically what that means, Drew's using an Amara level 5, I'm using a Zane level 20, and if we're in game, we'll have the option, if we're playing this type of game, to see instance loot, meaning that he sees things for his level, I see things for my level. So, it's a good way for...
their own separate ones, too.
Yes, yep, they're completely different weapons as well. So it's a good way to go ahead and go through and be able to play without having the need to either power level somebody or feeling like you're doing way too much stuff. Now, if you want to play like that, you'll have a classic mode in the game where you can totally do that. So we did also hit on radiation last time as part of our news segment from the last episode. We did see how that worked, and it worked pretty much like we thought it would. So,
Yep, pretty much. If an enemy dies because of radiation, they explode. That kind of surprised me, but it's cool that that's the way that they transfer the damage.
Correct. Yep. So, one of our favorite things from the remaster of Borderlands 1 is back. You get autofill ammo.
Man, I can't wait for that. You don't even have to like click X to enter the ammo machine. You just press a button and you're good.
Yep. All good. So, like, they went above and beyond with that. It's like, hey, just give us a button to buy all. It's like, oh, we'll do better than that. You don't even have to go to the thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, snap. So, you also get one of my favorite things, and we've seen this with bosses, and we've also seen it with the regular enemies in the game, too. You get to collect the weapons that the enemy was using, like you did in Borderlands 1. So, for people that
now that's based on one statement that Randy made during the thing. Randy says, I love being able to pick up a weapon that an enemy was using against you. And I was like, sweet! That means that's back, because it didn't happen so much with minor enemies in Borderlands 2, which was super frustrating.
Right. And that's the thing, is that, in Borderlands 1 they had it, in Borderlands 2 they didn't. Which means that you could have an enemy in Borderlands 2 that was using, you could have, like, an enemy could spawn literally dual-wielding, two of the same legendary rocket launcher, and then they could die and leave you a white SMG.
Which was super disappointing.
Yeah. So yeah. And then there's also going to be a lost loot machine. Again, kind of keeping up with the Joneses here with some of the other games that we've seen. So if you get something cool and you lose it in the game somewhere, you'll be able to get it back once you get to the new kind of hub world, which we're going to get into here in a second as well. So
yeah, the lost loot machine, that just makes sense. It's not. I don't think it was really necessary. I'd never lost a ton of loot in Borderlands, but it's just a great thing to have.
Yeah, and I think where it'll help mostly is in early game, because I don't know about you, I've kind of gotten to this weird points with some of my playthroughs in Borderlands 2, especially where I keep farming bosses until they get that particular loot drop in the game as I'm going through it, like from level 0 all the way up.
Yep.
So just because it's fun for me and I enjoy farming, so and if you're getting too many legendaries early in game or something like that, now you won't have to decide which one to drop or sacrifice or make the trip back to the hub world to go ahead and store them and then go back or blah 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 or whatever. So this will be nice.
Exactly.
So, do you want to run us through the next few?
Yeah. So next we have Sanctuary 3, which is the new hub world. Apparently, we don't talk about Sanctuary 2. We're gonna find out why in game. I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty neat. It's got everything you need there. It's a literal spaceship. It's got Marcus and Moxie and Tannis and everybody that you're used to. Save for one. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it includes also a player's quarters area, which according to them is customizable, and you can put cool weapons on the wall, and you can decorate it however you want. And that's fine, I guess. That doesn't really mean anything to me.
Sure.
If it was more of an RPG, then we'd be talking like it makes sense to me in stuff like Skyrim and Fallout and those kinds of series.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 14. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't make as much sense to me in Borderlands, but whatever. It doesn't. I don't think it'll detract from anything.
Yeah, that's the thing is that as we're going through these, we're noticing a lot of things that don't detract from the game at all, but they hit a lot of key points for a lot of different people. Again, we know it's a stupid thing that we're super excited about the autofill on ammo, but
man, it's such a quality of life improvement.
It is,
it's so much faster.
And someone who sits there and says autofill on ammo, I don't really care about that, may be super into the customizable thing for the players' quarters. So it's just hitting all these different buttons for different players, which I think is good.
Definitely. So next, one of the most exciting things is we got to see a little bit of some other worlds besides Pandora. We were on Prometheus, which weren't we? Is that where the Malawan headquarters is at? Is Prometheus?
Promethea.
Promethea. Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. So we were there for a little bit. I was super excited to see that there wasn't any kind of change in gravity or physics or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know why. Anyways,
nice.
Moving on is new vehicles. We've seen them in the trailers and everything. We've known about them. That one big wheel thing, I'm really curious to see how that thing handles. I imagine it handles like a battleship.
Yeah.
Just slow, big old boat thing, hard to turn around. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. So, getting into the next parts and what we were talking about with Sanctuary 3 earlier, one thing we noticed is that we don't see Zed anywhere. So, super weird. We do know that, Zed is, he may not be a great doctor, but he is very dedicated to helping people. So we do know that the med vendors still have his face on them and that there's new voice lines recorded for those med vendors that you could hear in the reveal and everything. But it may just be something where maybe he's somewhere on another world, or maybe he stayed on Pandora to help people there. We don't know, but we just know that we didn't see him on Sanctuary 3 when we're seeing everybody else. Hammerlock and Moxie and Tannis and all these other people, Crazy Earl, all these other people that are on Sanctuary, but we don't see Zed anywhere, so...
Calling it now. Zed's dead, baby.
Zed's dead. Oh, no.
I'm calling it now.
But, well then, what about his evil brother, Ned?
Ooh, Ned is probably kicking around somewhere.
Ned is probably still dead, like we left him in Borderlands 1. So...
How messed up would that be if they tried to do that kind of crap? Like, Ned is back, but Zed's dead? That'd be weird.
That would. Or something like, well, I mean, there's still that third brother that they don't talk about, Ted.
Yeah. So, speaking of Marcus and Crazy Earl and all those guys, we saw in the gameplay footage that Marcus is going to be now responsible for selling your weapon SDUs, so upgrading the magazine size on your carrying capacity on your weapons and everything. Which begs the question, what does Crazy Earl do?
Yeah, because
he can't just hang out and just sell backpack upgrades, right?
Yeah, because that was literally all that we saw of him. Was we saw the player go to the door, say hi to Crazy Earl, and then leave. Like I don't think there was even a menu to go
Yeah.
into at the time or anything.
Right. Super weird. Super weird.
Yeah. So and we'll find out. There it did look like there was some other stuff in there that Marcus did. Some things that we're not sure about, some symbols that we didn't quite recognize or anything. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we could speculate, but we're not good at that. So.
Yeah. So, lastly, the one big thing that we have seen a little bit, and this was actually from some of the players that actually got to play around a little bit in game, was Guardian rank. Now, for those of you that haven't seen any videos or anything, Guardian rank is what Bar is actually replacing, or Badass rank is actually, or what is being replaced. Badass rank was in the previous game in Borderlands 2, and now we're going to Guardian rank. God,
Yep.
had to get that straight there. So
yeah, no, that's cool.
Anyway, so it basically does the same thing. It looks like it's more customizable from what we've seen, and it looks like it does a lot more stuff too. Like one of the weird things that was noticed in there was that you can even do stuff like faster movement speed while in fight for your life.
Yeah, that would be convenient, especially with stupid backpedaling sons of bitches.
Backpedaling marauders for days.
yeah, it just I'm so over that. I can't stand that.
Right. If any of the bandits ever make it off of Pandora, it'll be a marauder that just backpedaled into space onto Promethea.
Oh man. How terrible would it be to have like a mini boss that just does that just like runs backwards the whole time?
And like anytime you get in front of them to shoot them, they just do a 180, just backpedal the other way.
Oh, man. Don't give him any ideas. Edit that out. I don't even want Randy to know about that. He'll be like, that's going in Borderlands 4. Or it's going in a DLC or something like that. I don't want that. I don't want it. Don't want it. So that wraps up the gameplay event recap, which is pretty much only the only news that we had from the past week, which brings us to our main topic. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be revisiting Borderlands 1, since a lot of people are new to the series. They're, all this news about Borderlands 3, it looks super sweet. They just came out with the remaster and everything, so a lot of people play in Borderlands 1. So we're going to give you guys a couple of helpful guides on how to successfully play different player characters in Borderlands 1. We're going to do 2 episodes, so this is our guide, part 1. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with Roland. Jeff's going to handle Lilith. Yep. And then next episode, we're going to handle Brick and Mordecai.
Yep. And for the record, yes, we know that there are multiple ways to play these characters. We're obviously covering a few of our different favorite ways. However you want to play these characters, totally fine. These are just the ones that we have found maximize our own enjoyment of the game. So, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the episode. But, obviously, if you have different opinions, that's great. No problem. So, again, these are just our own personal opinions.
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, when I started playing Borderlands, I didn't watch any tutorials or anything. I just learned by playing. So, and that's probably the best way to learn. But if you're struggling or something, you can just start up a new build and listen to this, and you'll get an idea, and you'll be like, oh, I see what he's saying about this, but I kind of want to tweak it and go into this skill instead. Totally understandable. And okay, cool. Let's get into it. So starting with Roland. Roland is the soldier class in Borderlands 1. His singular action skill is the Scorpio turret. It is a turret that automatically fires. It also has shields that can be used as cover. It has a 180-degree range. The cooldown on it, without any kind of modifications, is 100 seconds. So that's, a minute and 40 seconds. That's kind of a long time. And probably the biggest downside to playing as Roland, in my opinion, is you can't get into his into reducing the cooldown on his turret until tier 3 in either the support or infantry classes. Yeah. And that can be a real bummer.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I mean, it's from it does have a really long cooldown compared to some of the other stuff, which between that and some of the other stuff, I think that's why I didn't initially go into it. But as you'll see, you can do some really cool stuff with Roland.
Yeah, for sure. So I mainly use the turret as an aggro tool, or when fighting bosses, you can take out smaller mobs farther away on your own and then deploy a turret to help take on the boss. Stuff like that. You can eventually whittle the cooldown time enough to where pretty much every encounter you should be able to deploy it, but that's going to be a ways off yet. So let's go ahead and go into Roland's skills. I'm going to touch on each skill briefly and mention any kind of weird nuances that are with it. So we're going to begin with his infantry skill tree, which is on the far left. Starting with Impact. Impact does increased bullet damage with all weapon types, starts at 3% increase and increases by 3% in increments of 3% and up to 15% when maxed out. Impact, I feel like, is an absolute necessity in almost any Roland build, because regardless of weapon type, regardless of class mod or anything like that, everybody wants to do more damage, and it's right in the first tier, so it's always available to everybody, and it's free damage, So
it's free real estate.
It is. I was gonna make the joke, and I'm like, no, I'll leave it alone. Jeff's gonna do it. So,
nice.
The adjacent one to infantry is Sentry. It increases your Scorpio turret damage, starts at 7%, and increases by 7% per level up to 35% when maxed out. Keep in mind, I think almost all of these skills, you can get class mods which can increase them past their fifth skill point per skill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, without any kind of class mods or anything, this is what you are going to be able to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So, tier 2 for infantry is Scattershot, which increases shotgun damage and spread. Starts at 3% damage and 5% spread, and then increases by 3% and 5% respectively, up to 15 and 25%. Despite what it says, Scattershot actually increases accuracy of shotgun and the player. It's really nice with Sledge's shotgun, which is one that you'll be getting fairly early into the game, and it increases that damage to something that is just totally nutso-butso. Just off the charts stupid damage.
Nice.
I really like running Scattershot when I'm running a shotgun.
Yeah, and if you want to have some really weird fun, then get Sledge's shotgun that has the knockback on it, and you'll have yourself a good time. You can kind of get down and under enemies a little bit at basically you're crouching underneath them and then shoot them straight up with Sledge's shotgun. So super fun, especially with that scatter shot.
Yeah, definitely. So adjacent to Scattershot is Metal Storm, which is killing an enemy, increases your fire rate, and reduces recoil for a few seconds. And when they say a few seconds, they mean 7. 7 is the number of seconds. Levels are, according to the numbers in-game, are 6% increase in fire rate and 15% reduction in recoil. But according to Borderlands.fandom.com, the fire rate levels are actually 11% increments instead of 15.
Okay.
Which is weird.
It is weird. We're going to get into a couple of those skills that work differently than you think they do. So just try and keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Is it accurate to say, do you think that even though it might work differently, the goal is still the same?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, it's still, even though the skill might not be augmented exactly how it says on here, it could still be useful. I mean, a half a percentage point here or there, or even 4% is typically not going to make that big of a difference.
Sure.
So Metal Storm is super useful for using support machine guns, which are the fully automatic versions of machine guns, and that works nicely with Assault, which is in the next tier of the tree. Assault increases magazine size and reduces recoil. for assault rifles in 9% increments for both. Sorry, combat rifles. Sorry, the combat rifles in Borderlands 1.
Right.
Right. Yes. Next to assault, we have refire. This is one that I was talking about that changes the Scorpio turret cooldown. Refire, shooting an enemy reduces the cooldown of your Scorpio turret. This effect can only occur every 2 seconds. Cooldown reduction per hit is 1 second per skill point invested into refire. However, this doesn't mean that you should shoot a guy, wait 2 seconds, shoot a guy, wait 2 seconds. Just, it keeps on resetting, all right? Just lay into the guy, okay?
Yeah.
So guided missile is the capstone in the infantry tree. It Scorpio turret fires guided missiles every 8 seconds and is reduced by 1 second per skill level. So like it's going to shoot a missile every 8 seconds for 1 point. You put in another point, now it's going to be every 7 seconds, so on and so forth.
Nice.
I'm not super crazy about guided missile. I think it's probably one of the weaker capstones in my opinion.
Okay.
Next, we're going to go into the support tree, which is the middle skill tree. That starts off with defense. It increases your shield recharge rate by 4% per skill point invested. Not a lot else to say about that. That can come in pretty handy. I'd prefer if it reduced the shield recharge rate delay, because that's what drives me crazy, but it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Sure. Yeah, and especially in Borderlands 1 more so than the other games. You really, a shield is super handy to have. I mean, if you're one of those people that plays Borderlands 2 a lot and gets into like OP8 and everything like that, where like you pretty much never have a shield, and a lot of that kind of stuff, then it's very different than when you go to Borderlands 1. So shield is a huge part of your build, especially at endgame.
Yep, definitely. Adjacent to that, we have stockpile, which gives you ammo regeneration near the Scorpio turret for the weapon that you have in hand. What happens is you'll deploy your turret, you'll see a blue circle around the turret, and as long as you're inside that, then it will regenerate ammo for you. Nice, really nice skill to have if you're firing a lot of bullets, which you typically are as Roland.
Yeah, and then if you're playing another character too, like a pistol build for Mordecai or something along those lines, or an SMG build for Lilith, those are super helpful to have as well.
Yeah, because it's not just the soldier; it's all allies also.
Correct. So.
Yep. Moving on to the next tier in the tree, we have quick charge, which killing an enemy causes your shields to quickly regenerate for a few seconds. Again, a few seconds is 7. Killing an enemy resets the clock and starts at 2% per second and increases by 1% per skill point invested. Nice to have, because you're going to be killing a lot of dudes. Not exceptionally good, but that's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
For those of you that listened to the first podcast, it's like the Wendy's of.
Oh, jeez! Here we go again.
One of these days, Wendy's is gonna come at us, and it's not gonna be good.
We're slipping under the radar so far, but it can only last for so long.
Right. Legitimate Wendy's, I actually do like your food. Like I'm not even playing like to save face. Like I actually do though.
So. Also in Tier 2 of the support tree, we have Barrage, which increases the number of shots your Scorpio turret fires in each burst.
Okay.
That's it. Nothing of note. Moving on to Tier 3, we have Grenadier. The number of... killing an enemy increases your grenade damage and causes you to regenerate grenades for a few seconds. Funny thing is that it says it begins at plus 2 grenades per minute and plus 3% grenade damage. It actually is not exactly 2 grenades per minute. It's actually 1.6.
How are you gonna have a 0.6 of a grenade or like
because it rounds it, I guess. So like your first one is like 2, then it goes up to 3.2, so it's actually like 3, and then it goes up to 4.8, so it's actually like 5.
That's weird. That's super weird.
There's a lot of weird stuff in Borderlands, man. I don't know. I'm not the one that wrote the code. That's just how it works.
All right, fair enough.
So moving on, we have deploy. Reduces the cooldown of your Scorpio turret. Always useful. Cooldown reduction is 20% per skill point.
Yeah.
Which is nice. So maxed out, that would be 100% reduction. So you're talking... I mean, we do the math on that. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do the math. I lied.
Quick maths.
Yeah, no, you know it is. Anyways, and the capstone in the support tree is supply drop. The Scorpio turret periodically fires out supply pickups to resupply players. It does... it can be money and ammo and health and all kinds of stuff. Interesting thing, the ammo regen is between 8.1 and 12.2% depending on the ammo type. If you have a larger magazine, it's going to replenish more ammo because they figure that makes up for it.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. So lastly, we have the medic tree, which has, to begin with, fitness, increases your maximum health, 5% per point invested. Pretty straightforward.
Never a bad thing.
Nope. More can't. It's nothing to shake a stick at. Never understood that phrase, but here we are.
I was gonna say, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Give me. Okay, so if we get to this point, Randy, if you're listening, which why would you not? If you're listening, give me that in Borderlands 4. I want a weapon that is literally a stick that you just shake at people and they die.
It's a legendary weapon type stick, you know?
Stick, yeah. Exactly. And it's literally just a stick. You find it on the ground beneath a tree and you're like, "Oh, sweet."
You know what it'd be? It'd be like that GIF you see on the internet of the angry kid that's like shaking the stick at people.
That's awesome.
Anyways,
you already made the Lascaux in Borderlands 2 in a puddle. Why not make a legendary that's just below a tree as a stick? Let's do it.
Perfect. Anyways, so also in tier 1 we have the aid station. Allies near the Scorpio turret regenerate health in 1% increments, increasing 1% per point invested. It's super handy to have because you're going to be putting out your turret quite a bit. Second tier, overload. Increased magazine size starts at 12% and increases by 12% per point invested.
Nice.
Really, 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 really nice for shotguns and for combat rifles that have slightly smaller magazines.
Yeah.
Next to overload, we have cauterize. It's such a fun skill. I really enjoy it. Shooting team members heals them. This effect also works with grenades and rockets. So it converts 6% damage into health.
Nice.
Which is super weird. But also includes not only... so it says in the description on here, includes grenades and rockets. What they don't tell you is that it also includes explosive damage from barrels and gas tanks.
What?
Yeah, true story. So like if you're dying, right? If you're like, man, I'm gonna go down, try to make it next to a barrel and have, try to have Roland shoot the barrel next to you and who knows, you might be fine.
Just like standing next to a barrel, you're like, "Come on, shoot me. What are you waiting for?"
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
Also includes vehicles that have friends or that have allies in it. Vehicles without allies in it is considered neutral and will take damage. It also includes Roland's turret because that does take damage.
Okay, nice.
The next level is Revive. The Scorpio turret has a chance to instantly revive yourself or allies in Fight for Your Life mode. 14% chance per point per skill point invested. The turret must be deployed prior to going into Fight for Your Life. So let's say you and I are playing, and it's a big firefight. You go down. I put a turret down. That's too late. I have to have the turret down before you go down in order for it to work.
So then, question: do you have to be within a certain range for this to also work?
Yes, you have to be within. So all the aid station and stockpile are both going to have circles that indicate the area that you need to be in, and they're exactly the same size. Revive is the same circle size.
Okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure if that was the same or not.
Yeah. So next is Grit. It increases your resistance to bullet damage by 3% per skill point invested. Not a lot to say there. It can be a little frustrating because it doesn't give you any resistance to elemental damage or damage over time or anything. Just the actual bullet round.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. And lastly, in the medic tree, we have Stat. Killing an enemy increases health regeneration for you and nearby friends for a few seconds. Again, a few seconds to the Gearbox team is apparently 7. So,
yo, I want to know who decided that.
I want to know that too. Like, why can't they just say 7 seconds? I mean, I can't go in if I say, "Hey, can I have a few donuts?" Nobody's gonna hand me 7.
Right? Exactly.
They're gonna give me like 2 or 3. So
I want to see that reaction now. Like, you just walk into, "Hey, can I get a few donuts?" It's like, yeah, they hand you 3, and you're like, no. Like,
right, double this, then add 1. Like, what? That's 7 donuts. You asked for a few. Doesn't make any sense. Whatever. They get paid more than I do to do what they do. So, fine.
Accurate.
Alright, so let's go into some of the specifics about playing as Roland. First, I'm going to cover mainly what weapons you want to be looking at as you're playing as Roland, and then I'm going to kind of narrow it down a little bit when it comes to particular builds. So, weapons. Machine guns are combat rifles, fine, are what you're going to find a lot of in Borderlands. They are abundant and easy to find, and personally I prefer support machine guns because they're automatic. You don't have, they're not burst fire. If I want burst fire, I'm just going to let go of the trigger and then pull it again. You know? That's how I see it. I don't really, like, it can be useful, but I hate, like, brr, brr, brr. It's just lay into the thing or whatever. I don't like burst fire. I'm not crazy about it. Anyways,
same.
So what you're going to want to look for are Havocs and Massacres specifically. Havocs have a high fire rate, a minimum of 10.0, which is pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Massacres are really nice because they're super accurate. They're always going to have an accuracy of 91.3 or above. Pick whichever suits your playstyle. Some people like the spray and pray method. Some people prefer, having a scope on their combat rifle and being a little bit more accurate, which is kind of what I like to do.
Sure.
But pick whichever one suits you. Just keep an eye out for Havocs and Massacres. They're both useful for Roland. Keep an eye out for the Bastard and the Revolution. Those are both legendary weapons both legendary combat rifles in Borderlands. Alternatively, you can keep a look at SMGs because SMGs are still really useful when playing as Roland. You're still going to get benefits from impact and from refire and all these ones and overload and all these skills that take advantage of the amount of rounds that you fire. SMGs are definitely useful. Keep an eye out for Stingers because they have a high fire rate and increased magazine size. I wouldn't really necessarily run SMGs later in game, but they're definitely helpful. Keep them as a sidearm or something like that. An example is early in game when you're gonna pick up the Bone Shredder, really really useful.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much regardless of who you play as, the Bone Shredder is gonna be a helpful weapon. And you can also look for the Savior, which is a legendary which has ammo regen. So that's fun.
Perfect. Yeah. Nice.
Moving on to the next weapon type, and we're not going to go into all weapons in this because it's just not necessary. I'm kind of focusing on the ones that are specific to Roland. So
yeah, with real quick, without getting too in depth into it, the nice thing is in Borderlands 1, it's nice to stick with specific weapons because the team kind of built each individual character around specific weapons. Not only that, but you have your proficiency with those weapons, which gives you bonuses. So if you're starting a new character and you say, all right, I'm going to pick these two weapon types, you'll gain proficiencies in those more quickly. You're not going to be fighting over those guns with anyone else that you're playing with, or for ammo for those guns with anyone else, and you'll do better stuff with the proficiencies that you get from those weapons. So it's just a better idea to stick with 2, maybe 3 weapon types depending on what you're looking at doing, unless you're going for something hyper specialized and specific.
Right. So for example, next we're going to be talking about shotguns, which are, in my opinion, a necessity for close range. I like brutes because they do more damage, and when it comes to shoddy boys, damage is the name of the game. It doesn't really do you a lot of good to have a low damage output shotgun. I just don't understand it. Like I talked about earlier, Sledge's shotgun is super sweet. I like it for using against badasses and stuff, but that thing chews through ammo like a monkey fryer, okay? It just, you're gonna run out of ammo fast.
No, stop. Whoa, no, what did you say?
I said it's fine for badasses.
After that.
That it chews through ammo like a monkey fryer.
Okay, to that one guy that's got art skills out there, draw me a picture of a monkey fryer.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you how fryer is spelled. You figure that part out on your own.
Send that to us at hit us up on Twitter at avaulthunterspod, or send it to our email, which is vaulthunterpod@gmail.com. No, wait, avaulthuntersguide@gmail.com. Sorry.
Figure it out.
So, let's see. Also, if you find a bulldog, which is another legendary shotgun, that thing's really, really nice. So keep your hands on that. Shotguns are super sweet, combined with scatter shot and impact, and I'm gonna say impact a lot because it's a necessary skill regardless of what playstyle you do. Let's see. Next, we have repeaters. Repeaters are an acceptable sidearm in pretty much any build, and you should probably always have one as a backup because you're going to be chewing through a lot of ammo with any build, but especially solo builds. I actually like swatters because you're probably not going to be doing a ton of damage. Swatters are super accurate. If you're not going to be doing a ton of damage, which you're not with a repeater, you might as well try to hit the critical spots. That's why also the ladyfinger early game can be nice as a sidearm. In the general Nox DLC, Athena's Wisdom is a really nice repeater because of critical hit damage and accuracy. It's a mission reward for completing the mission Loot Larceny in the general Nox DLC. And moving on from repeaters, that's going to actually wrap it up for weapons because I'm not super crazy about rocket launchers because they fire slow and they have a long reload time. And I don't like them, and it's my show, and you can't make me talk about them. Moving on. Grenades.
Damn, roasted.
Come at me.
Get dunked on rocket launchers in Borderlands 1.
And Borderlands 2. And anyways, grenades are kind of situational. It depends on the type of enemies that you're fighting at the time. Run fire grenades when you're fighting a lot of skags and other wildlife. Run corrosive when you're fighting the Crimson Lance, and shock grenades when you're fighting Guardians, stuff like that. To me, grenades aren't abundant enough to really make a huge difference. I mean, if you're putting points into Grenadier and stuff like that, then it makes a difference. But in general, have a grenade for every elemental type, and then use it situationally, and then upgrade when you can.
Nice. I like that.
So, getting into more specific builds, I'm going to talk about one solo build, one team build, and then one just ridiculous build. So, the first one I call JVIP. Now, that is short for Jesse Ventura in Predator, because that's basically what you're doing here. It's a lot of big guns. You're firing a lot of bullets. You're gonna shred everything, and you ain't got time to bleed. That's how this build works.
Perfect.
So I'm sure that when you were looking at my thing here, you're like, "What in the world is JVIP?"
So, I legitimately thought it was just very important person, and I was confused.
Nice. So let's begin by talking about impact. You're gonna dip into impact and metal storm, and then either scattershot or assault, depending on which weapon you prefer as your main. Impact, man. If you're not putting your points into impact first, regardless of your build, you're doing it wrong. Respec, go into impact. It's super handy, regardless. So, like I said, next you're going to go into Metal Storm, which is going to increase your fire rate and reduce your recoil. Again, regardless of weapon type. So then you can specialize a little bit more and go into either Scattershot or Assault. That just comes down to preference. If you like putting shotguns in people's faces and blowing them away, understandable. It's a fun play style, like a big tanky style build. I prefer Assault because I like to keep my distance a little bit, so that's typically what I go with. So after you get those 3 skills, don't even worry about guided missile. I don't see the point in it. It's just not super handy to me. So you're going to want to dip into Stockpile, Aid Station, and Quick Charge and Deploy. Because by the time you get 5 points into everything else, you're going to be level, 21 or whatever?
Yeah, yep.
So, and you can pretty much easily, if you find the right weapons and stuff, you can pretty solidly handle yourself until then. But then you're going to need to start relying on your Scorpio turret more. You're going to expect more out of it. So, put stuff into Stockpile because you're going to be chewing through a lot of bullets and you're going to want as many of them back as you can get.
Sure.
Get into Aid Station so you can use that turret for cover and regenerate some health. Pop up, fire off a bunch of shots, then hop back down. Then you're going to put points into Quick Charge, which is going to regenerate your shields quickly. And that's a super handy... It's a pretty handy skill to have, but mainly what you're doing is you're putting points into that, so that way you can... then put 5 points into Deploy and reduce the cooldown of your Scorpio turret. And then after Deploy, probably refire. So that way you've got your turret coming out as quickly as possible and you're getting the benefits of ammo regen and health regen and everything like that. And you're just firing a whole lot of bullets.
Nice.
So specifically when it comes to, you're going to find that I say this a lot, but when it comes to shields, it really depends on your play style. Like I said earlier, I prefer more tanky style, so I like higher capacity shields. That's what I like to do. A lot of other people are going to want to be more tactical about it and kind of hide behind stuff and take cover and things like that. So you can go with one that has a faster recharge timer. If you're going with high capacity, look at Pangolin. They are some of the higher capacity shields that you can find. And if you want faster recharge, look at Anshin. That's kind of where I'd go with that. It depends on how you prefer to play. When it comes to class mods, I like the heavy gunner and rifleman class mods because they mainly boost skills that you should already have points in, impact and stockpile and stuff like that. Let's see. The next build that we're going to talk about briefly is what I'm going to call the Bad Nurse. So this is more of a team or co-op style build. What we're looking at here is putting a lot of stuff more into the medic tree and everything. Everybody's going to be doing a lot of damage when you're in co-op mode. So you don't need to worry so much about wiping out your enemies as fast as possible. So what you're going to start off with is Aid Station, which is going to regenerate all your buddy's health and everything. Then you're going to go into Cauterize because shooting your friends and healing them is super fun and really, really helpful. When you max it out, you're talking a 30% damage, or a 30% of your damage is converted to health.
Sure.
Super nice. After Cauterize, you're gonna go into Revive, which will revive your friends. You know, I mean, it's got a pretty good chance of reviving your friends. Basically, what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be using that turret as everything that you need. You know, health and ammo and you know, getting out of fight for your life mode and everything. Really,
Sure.
really nice. Then you're going to go into oh, I missed one here. Then you're going to want to go into oh no, I said revive. Okay, then you're going to go. Did. Then you're going to go into stat. Killing an enemy increases health regen for you and nearby friends for a few seconds. Health regen is useful regardless of your playstyle. Then you can afford to go with a little bit. You can go with a larger shield that's going to take a little bit longer to recharge because you'll be regenerating health. Really nice.
Sure.
Nice. Then after that, you're going to want to put points into quick charge. Where is that?
Quick charge and deploy, as we've already discussed.
Sorry. You're going to want to put points into stockpile first to get that ammo regen going. Then quick charge again for your health, or for your shields. And then followed by deploy, which is going to reduce the cooldown of your turret. Again, regardless of what style build you're doing, the turret is going to be the focus later on. So you're going to want as much access to it as you can. Shields, same as before, depends on your playstyle. All depends on what you feel like doing. Class mods, pretty much the only class mod that you're really going to be interested in with this playstyle is the Tactician, because it's the only one that really has a whole lot of focus on the medic tree. And it's going to be helpful for you and your team because it helps regenerate your team's health also. Lastly is the build that I'm going to call Sergeant Splody Pants. That is
This sounds like a Torg fanfic of something.
Oh, I know, right? So this is based off of a very specific class mod that you can get in the General Nox DLC called the Marine class mod. And what it does is bonus damage to rocket launchers and increases their fire rate and increases their accuracy. So it's like a rocket launcher soldier build. Rock whatever shield you want. Again, I don't care. But what you're going to want to spec into is Overload, Grenadier, and Cauterize. Cauterize, obviously, don't go into that if you're solo. But if you're doing a team playthrough and you've got Marine, go into Cauterize, because all that splash damage that you do from your rockets is going to help too. It's going to actually affect your teammates. So they could be in the thick of it, right, mixing it up with psychos and everything, and you could launch a rocket into there and it's going to kill everything else and heal your friends. Really, really fun. And then go into Stockpile, Aid Station, Quick Charge, and Defense. So you'll notice here, looking across these builds, every single one of them I mention Aid Station, every single one of them I mention Stockpile, and this is the only one that I don't talk about Impact in, because Impact is specifically bullet damage, and rockets aren't bullets. So that's basically... I know, weird, right?
Rockets aren't bullets.
So,
ridiculous.
Lastly, we're going to be looking at Harpoon-style rocket launchers, because they have increased accuracy and rocket travel speed.
Nice.
That's so that kind of wraps up Roland. And I feel like that was super long-winded, but I seriously had to cover all that stuff, and I couldn't do it any faster. So
no, don't worry about it. So this is going to be a little bit longer episode for those people that are listening. So not a big deal. You know, we generally try to stick somewhere between that hour and a half mark. So
yep.
So we're gonna, this will be on the longer side of that hour and a half, but no big deal. So, but no, I think that's great. I think that having a couple of those things that you mentioned in there as kind of consistent things are going to be really nice. Between Quick Charge and Aid Station, I think that those just make total sense to me, because like you said, no matter what you're doing, you or someone else in the game is gonna need health at some point, and if you're going to pick somebody up, you're always gonna want that shield as quick as you can.
Right. Exactly. So
perfect. So Well, nice. Well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get us into our guide to Lilith here real quick. I did mine a little bit differently, slightly differently, not much though. I picked 3 or 4 skills for each build that we're looking at, and then at the end I'll cover things that are going to be helpful no matter which build you're doing. So real quick, Lilith, whose full name and title according to some unused texture profiles from the game is Dr. Lilith Cashlin, Mercenary Scientist. So
what? Get out! I had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's a doctor and a mercenary and a scientist. So take that.
That's awesome.
Also, gotta say though, not super crazy about the last name Cashlin. I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, that's
like.
Right.
So anyway, she is the Siren class from the game and is listed as being good with elemental weapons and SMGs. And those 2 things right there is where we're going to be spending a lot of our time and a lot of our focus today. So for me, when considering how to play any character, the first things I focus on, number 1, and this, I hope this is for you guys too, because if you're not, stop it, get some help. But, the number 1 thing I look at when I'm doing a build in any game, not just Borderlands, is will it be fun? Like, if I'm playing a game and if I'm just going through the motions because it's the best min-max build, I don't really care if I'm not having fun. So, will it be fun? But, number 2 is, do I have a clear direction on maximizing it? So, that being said, the first build we're focusing on is an elemental build. We have a very clear direction of where to go. We're just trying to do as much elemental damage as possible, and it'll just be oodles of fun. So,
oodles.
Anyway. Oodles. So skills right away. We're going to look at Spark, which is the first one after Phase Walk, which increases elemental effect chance by 4% per level. Pause. So, all right. So
now, hold up.
Hold up. Wait a minute. All right. So Spark doesn't quite do as the skill card says. What it's actually affecting is the tech pool of elemental weapons. Without getting too specific, a weapon's tech pool is actually how many times it will have triggered the elemental effect in a given amount of time. That's what her skill is actually buffing. So the tech pool in a weapon recharges over time naturally as the gun is out and held in your hand, meaning on screen and not tucked away. The way to think of this is think of it like bailing water out of a bathtub that's running. So if you bail quickly enough, you'd empty the tub and have to wait for it to refill. So, that's exactly what you're doing with this. Note that higher quality weapons will usually have larger tech pools, which means they will proc more times before actually exhausting that. So Spark also increases the regeneration of the tech pool. All said and done, what this means is that each rank increases the tech pool or size of the tech pool of a weapon by 2% per rank, and the regeneration of it by 5.5% per rank.
Huh. Interesting.
So, yeah, really weird way to get around it. Kind of similar to the Roland skill of regenerating the grenades at 1.6 at a time.
Right, as opposed to 2. Yeah.
Right. It's another weird kind of a thing. So yeah, just kind of a weird thing. So, but yeah, being able to do more elemental damage is the end game of that, and that helps. So that's what you're doing with that. Secondly, immediately after that, I do go into Radiance, and it's the next tier after that. So you deal shock damage to nearby enemies while phase walking. So the damage is based off of your level that you have. It's based off of your level and the skill points that you have in it both. So you can get up to potentially +9 with the use of from the skill level with class mods and everything like that. So everything when it's done, if you're at endgame, if you're level 69, then yeah, I know, right? So the character's level further influences the skill's damage, giving you +12 shock damage at endgame. So the nice thing that I like about Radiance is that it can last several minutes, which is much longer than other forms of shock damage. And you can even buff that up to a total of 9 times. Like I said, 5 from skill points and additional 4 times through class mods.
Yep.
It's it's nice because it's a very early and easy way to strip shields so that you can start inflicting corrosion or fire damage or whatever it is you need to do on some of these enemies. Especially in mobs of enemies, because here's the cool thing. It's really easy for shock damage to jump from one enemy to another. Just be very, very careful, as this can also jump to barrels, and if you're down and you just took all the baddies out with Radiance, then you're kind of SOL, which stands for shock out of luck. So, so also totally weird random thing in the zombie DLC. There's an enemy called Tankensteins who actually heal from shock damage. So don't put Radiance on Tankensteins unless you're just looking to do something weird or goofy. I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, for this reason, you can almost negate entirely shock weapons on Lilith by using Radiance. You just go, you phase walk, you do your quick run, you hit all the enemies on the battlefield, they all spread it to other things. You don't really need shock weapons at that point if they're already being shot and if all their shields are being stripped. Not a big deal. So the last skill for the elemental build that I go into is Phoenix. And these are the three that I typically build my elemental skills around. So it's a tier 4 skill, and what it does is killing an enemy causes Lilith to deal +1 fire damage over time to a nearby enemy, and gives Lilith's shots a 5% chance not to cost ammo for a few seconds per rank. The damage is also modified by Lilith's character level. So
really, really interesting ability there.
Yeah. So the cool thing about Phoenix is that, like I said, it does lots of fire damage, and it has the second added ability to also make your chance for your shots to cause 0 ammo. You can buff this all the way up to a 45% chance for your shots to cost 0 ammo, which is huge. It's like almost 1 out of every 2 shots is not going to cost you anything. So
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So now the really cool thing about this altogether, and the reason that I do this specifically if I'm doing an elemental build, is because when you combine Radiance and Phoenix and you have a corrosive relic, you're able to apply a dot stack of every element very quickly by using phase walk. So yeah, so you can do lightning, you can do fire, and you can do corrosive, all of them at once just by phase walking. So it's
nice.
It's really effective to be able to do all those things. And then obviously if you're doing if you've got a corrosive gun and a fire gun as well, then you're doing that much more. So you're just like, you're not even really worrying about yourself. You're just taking these guys down in chunks at a huge point. So the class mod that you're going to want to run for this is going to be really, really dependent on your play style. But typically, I'll either run a Firefly class mod or a Tormentor class mod. Firefly specifically for fire damage because it has the following perks. So it's made by either Doll or Mollywan, and it has plus 28% to plus 60% ignite damage, depending on how good of one you get. And it does buffs to Spark and to Phoenix and to Diva. So we'll get into Diva here in a little bit too. So it also has a plus 0 to a plus 84 chance to ignite resistance. So I always thought it was kind of weird that, Lilith had control over all these elements but still took elemental damage, but it just wouldn't be fair if she didn't take any at all. So
yeah. Yep.
It also does do plus 0 to plus 42% elemental effect chance. So again, really, really cool. Really cool there. Just that much more of a chance to actually buff that. So now, if you're looking for something a little bit more well-rounded, something not into fire, and if you're probably working with teams as well, then you're definitely going to go with the Tormentor class. It has plus 24 to plus 45% team elemental effect chance. So again, that's for the whole team. So if you're running a bunch of sirens, that could be super fun. Or even if you're playing like a shock trooper Roland, or if you're playing I know that you can do like some fun corrosive builds with Mordecai, if you want to, things like that. But that does buffs to Spark and to Radiance, which we've already covered, and that does buffs to Striking as well. Gonna be honest, Striking I'm not super into as a skill. It's not. I just don't like it, man.
Yeah, it's just not super beneficial. Not something that you're going to use a lot of.
Yeah, correct. It's not my thing. It's not my jam. So,
Yeah.
After that, it does do again up to that plus 42% team elemental effect damage, good, and then just an additional plus 14% team damage. So not bad. So again, if you want to go specifically fire damage, and you want to put all your eggs in that basket, great, go nuts, and you're gonna have a lot of resistance to it and everything like that. So but again, if you're looking for something a little bit more rounded, then Tormentor is not a bad thing. So,
right.
As for the guns, just find the best elemental weapons you can have and have fun with it. So if you're looking for some legendaries, then it gets a little bit weird because here's the thing with how Spark works and actually refilling the tech pool as we've talked about earlier, a lot of the really good elemental weapons already have tech pools that are never really going to run out anyway. So
right.
it's kind of weird like that, but at the same time, you're already buffing a lot of other elemental effect chance and damage anyway. So you know what? Just get them. So if you get like Crom Sidearm, or if you want to get obviously the Hellfire or the Firehawk or anything like that, those are not bad things to have. The Defiler especially, all those kind of things. So
Yep.
But like I said, the nice thing about this is you don't even have to use legendary weapons for it to be good. You can use lower tiered weapons, and they're still going to be really good just because of how much you're buffing them. So, yeah, like I said, generally I stick with SMGs and repeater pistols, as the higher fire rate will help to stack dots more quickly. Damage over time effects or dots more quickly. Higher tech pool guns again won't be as good with Spark, but it's never a terrible thing even with endgame content. So. Next, we're going to look into the gun build. So this is, not focusing on elemental stuff as much. This is about straight bullet damage and what you're doing with that. So the first thing that we're going to go into is into Slayer. So as it gives you a 5% boost to critical damage for each rank, which through the use of comms can be stacked up to 9 times total, except that it can't. So,
What do you mean?
Okay.
What?
Yeah, okay. So here's the weird thing. So the way it's written, again, plus 5% boost to crit damage for each rank. What it actually does is the skill actually increases whatever gun you're holding. So you're holding a gun, you're firing it, and it increases the overall damage of that gun by 12.5% when you hit a crit with it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, really weird. At the end of the day, it still means that when you land a crit with the skill, it does more base gun damage, and that's never a bad thing. It just doesn't work like it says. So obviously the guns that have higher damage are going to be. That means that they're going to be doing more critical damage when they do as well. So it's a really weird thing, but that's just the way it works. So yeah. After that, we're going to go right down that same tree into Enforcer. So Enforcer gives you a boost to accuracy by plus 7% per rank and raises bullet damage by 2% per rank for a few seconds after killing an enemy. And again, with class mods, you can get this all the way up to a rank 9.
I'm assuming a few seconds is 7.
I would assume so. I haven't checked into it, but I would assume so. Please don't hate me for this. Again, the skill doesn't quite work as advertised.
Come on.
I know, right? It's super weird. So here's the thing. This one's a little bit nicer though. The damage scaling is correct, so that's good. But what it means by accuracy is that the weapon spread is reduced. So
how's that different?
That's the thing, is that there's not less. So accuracy, most people consider like the weapon sway or things like that.
Oh, okay, I see. I see the difference there. Yeah.
Yeah. So now here's the cool thing: is you can actually see a visual representation of this skill. So after you defeat an enemy, looking down the scope of a weapon will reduce the size of the actual reticle that you're looking down. and that tells you,
Really?
yeah, and that tells you that the spread is smaller. So the things that have the really really tiny reticles in the game, those are the ones that have the smaller spread. So a good example is like, do you remember looking down the scope of the spy and seeing how just absolutely insanely tiny the reticle is?
Yep.
That's why that is.
Huh. Cool.
So
I had no idea.
yeah. So now the cool thing about this is we're going to keep on working our way down. We're going to go into high velocity. So the skill increases projectile. Now I want listen to this very carefully. The skill increases projectile velocity and bullet damage. It's written that way very specifically. It says projectile speed because this is projectiles, not bullets. So
Okay, so if you use a shotgun, for example, your pellets are going to be faster?
the way I looked at it was, and I was maybe thinking ahead to something else, but it does actually affect the projectiles fired by Iridian weapons as well.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, so that is really, really
That's
neat.
going to be like one of the few things that actually affects Iridian weapons.
Right, and we'll get into that here in a little bit too. But so the best part about this skill is that it works exactly like it should. So
Oh, whoa, really?
yeah, exactly. So it does say projectile velocity, and then it says bullet damage. So you'll have better velocity with Iridian weapons if you want to choose to use those. But because the Iridian weapons don't actually fire bullets, then you're not going to be getting the bullet damage buff off there. So. Kind of an but we're focusing on bullets here because this is a gun build. So again, those three skills between Slayer, Enforcer, and High Velocity are the basis of this build. So as for class mods, I highly suggest the Mercenary mods in the base game. The Mercenary mods will give you anywhere between 24 and 61% SMG damage. And then it'll also give you points into Quicksilver and High Velocity and Girl Power. We'll get into Quicksilver in a little bit too. You'll also get a up to a plus 42% elemental SMG elemental effect chance. So if you want to spec into that a little bit too, that's awesome. But the other main thing is if you're going into guns and you're firing a lot of bullets, then you have a chance on the Mercenary ones to get up to 29 plus 29 SMG ammo regeneration. Which,
nice.
Yeah, so you don't even have to spec into anything else if you don't want to. You can just stay in SMGs and just go to town with those. So
that's cool.
The other one is from the Nox DLC, and this is the biggest difference to me is if you want to stick with SMGs or not. So in those ones, you get the professional ones, which is a doll loyalty thing. So doll loyalty class mod, and it gives you anywhere between 50 and 61% weapon damage, so that gap is smaller when you're farming those. And then it does also give you points into Quicksilver and High Velocity and Dramatic Entrance, which we'll get into in a little bit as well. And then it also gives you plus 32% shield capacity and anywhere between 36 and 42% weapon magazine size.
Nice.
So the cool thing that I really like about that is, so you get weapon damage and you get weapon magazine size. So if you're firing some of the really, really high firing repeater pistols, think like the Double Furies or something like that, then you're really going to be doing, a lot, and you're going to have huge ammo. You're going to have huge magazines for that, which are just going to help you. So. Again, with this, I recommend any weapon that fires quickly, but obviously the Double Anarchy SMGs if you're going to stick with the Mercenary class mods. And since the main draw here is more bullet damage, just throw as many bullets out there as you can. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
I recommend the Double Anarchies, again, for the SMG build, and if you want to throw repeater pistols in there, then definitely go with the Double Furies. And to those people, so like if you're thinking legendaries, think like the Thanatos, the Spy would be another good option because you're getting, really good critical hit damage out of that. So uniques and legendaries like that are really going to help you out. Now, I know what you're thinking. To those people who say, well, Jeff, wait a minute. If you're doing more damage with the guns, don't you want a more powerful gun like maybe a sniper rifle? Give us a second. All right, we're getting there. So there's definitely a sniper build that you can do. the reason it's this far down on the list is because it's highly specific. These aren't rated or anything like that, but this is a highly specific thing, so please bear with me with this, okay? Obviously doing many of those same things for the gun build helps out with snipers. So Slayer, Enforcer, High Velocity, all those kind of things are great. Here's where it gets a bit rough, okay? If we want to do this right, we need a sniper class mod for Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah. This is just so people know, this is similar to, every character in Borderlands has a specific class mod in the General Knox DLC that is totally different than the rest of the class mods that are available in the vanilla game. That's what the Marine one was for Roland. This one that Jeff's about to talk about is the one for Lilith.
Yeah, and again, it's very specific. There's a couple of them, and like I said, there's the loyalty ones, which again, kind of like the one I talked about earlier with the doll loyalty one, but this one is the hyper specific one. So, okay, so you need a sniper comm. We can do this. We can get it by going to the General Knox DLC and getting one from Omega class assassins in this DLC. The first and the easiest one is right away in the very first mission of the game from Volcana. When you're putting together a new vehicle for Scooter. So here's the thing and why I'm a little hesitant on this. It's if she doesn't drop this, you will have to hard reset the game as this character does not respawn.
Yeah, you have to do a menu quit, like if you're on PlayStation, a dashboard quit, that's what it's called. Hold the PlayStation button, close the application, go back into it.
Yeah, so you'll have to dashboard if you're on console. You'll have to Alt F4 essentially if you're on PC. Yes, you can get into read-only farming on PC. That's a whole thing. There's plenty of guides about it on YouTube. Look up read-only farming Borderlands 1 and you'll have an understanding of what that is. Just make sure to turn that off after you actually get it. So, but here's the cool thing about this. So she drops it. You get anywhere between plus 65 and 100% sniper critical hit damage. Awesome.
That's stupid high.
Yeah, that is. That's stupid. That's like Mordecai levels of high.
Yeah.
Like legit, okay? The 3 skills it buffs are Surprise, Slayer, Enforcer, and High Velocity. All of those are the bullet damage ones. Awesome, okay? You also get plus 60 to plus 84% sniper rifle accuracy, okay? And the biggest thing about this is you also have the chance to get anywhere between plus 0, so none at all, or plus 23% or not percent, but plus 23 sniper rifle ammo regen. So
23 is again just ridiculously high. I couldn't even imagine using that many sniper rifle bullets.
Yeah. So, for this, because I'm a big fan, I recommend the Jacobs sniper rifles. I'm huge on those. But honestly, anything that has the fearsome prefix, if you want raw power, because that'll help damage, or the liquid prefix if you want something that fires quickly. Obviously there's lots of different sniper rifles you can get in the game. One of the big things that you could do to really kind of help out Lilith is you could do the Volcano, which is a legendary sniper rifle that does fire damage, and then you could also do a Skull Masher just to get that damage in there. So there's a lot of things. You could go with the Surkov, you could go with the Invader. There's a lot of different ones you could go with in that loop. But yeah, if you're not looking at legendaries or uniques, then either something with the fearsome for power or liquid for fire rate. So yeah, those are the 3 big builds I'm looking into. There is another one that you can do that's a little bit different. I was debating about whether to even share this one, but it's really interesting, so I kind of feel like I want to talk about it just briefly. So bear with me because I don't even really have notes on there. You also have the option to get the Iridian Warrior one, which does Radiance, Interglow, and Phoenix. Gives you anywhere between 35 to 61% weapon damage, and then it does something really interesting. So the Iridian Warrior mod increases the damage of Iridian weapons, which works well with Lilith's elemental damage and fire rate increasing skills. Again, I'm getting this information off the wiki, so it does also allow her to deal extra shock and fire damage to enemies around her, and it doesn't spawn with any secondary effects though. That's the problem. So you can mod in a couple of things, but that's the thing. So if you really want to go into a weird build, go into a Radiant Warrior, maybe look at a couple of things to again increase that projectile speed like we talked about. But the fact that it doesn't give you anything additional on top of that, like weapon damage or magazine size or anything like that, it's kind of rough. Although those can be modded in if you're on PC if you want to do that. It's just not something that I'm big on doing. So, some final notes on that is that at the end of the day, no matter what build you're doing, I think that some of the skills that will always help you are hard to get, which is actually we'll go in order here. So as far as tiers go, so Silent Resolve, okay, increases your resistance to damage by 14% for a few seconds after phase walking. Okay, that's huge. So, and it actually does it more than and again, we're assuming that for a few seconds is probably 7, like 7. Yeah. So a lot of people like to talk about resilience as far as another good one to go into, because it gives you it adds +6 every level to
your elemental resistance.
Yeah, to your elemental resistance. But the thing about that is you can go into Silent Resolve, like 9 levels of resilience is pretty much the same degree of elemental damage reduction as the very first level of Silent Resolve. So why would you not just go into Silent Resolve? You can use your other skills at better points in there. So
especially considering Silent Resolve is a tier 1 skill and you can get into it immediately.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So if you go all the way into it, you can potentially get up to, so you get that rank 9, get that damage reduction after phase walking. You can essentially rank that up all the way to 126%. So,
that's awesome.
So yeah, crazy stuff. There's Diva, which increases your shield capacity by 5% every time, and it's used in a couple of the other comms that we have, so that's good. Again, having a bigger shield is never a bad idea for any build that you're doing, so really good there.
Again, another tier 1 skill.
Correct. Yep. And then that's the thing. So Silent Resolve, tier 1 skill, Diva, tier 1 skill. So again, really easy to get if you want to do those. Then we kind of work our way immediately down that same row and that same tree for, right below Diva, we go into Inner Glow. While phase walking, you regenerate 1.4% health per second. Again, being able to have a way to get your own health without having to rely on somebody else is never a bad idea, because you can use it in team, solo. You being up is better for your team, and if you're not playing with a team, then being able to heal yourself and get out of situations, as well as putting dots on them if you want to, if you've spec'd into that already, never a bad idea. It's a great skill to have. Just put it on there. And then we've got Hard to Get, which decreases the cooldown of phase walk by 3 seconds. So, again, per rank. So never a bad thing to have either, because if you're going to be using it to get your health back and to put dots on enemies, or both, or get out of sticky situations or anything, then you're going to be able to use that at the drop of a hat. So why not make it so that the cooldown on it is, really short?
Yep.
So
yep, exactly. I mean, in phase walk, cooldown is already short enough. Like it's at 36 seconds to begin with. So when you max out Hard to Get, you're talking about a total reduction of 16 seconds. Now you're talking every 20 seconds you're going into phase walk.
Yeah, and really, with Lilith, you should really be able to survive 20 seconds on your own.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a thing that you should be able to do. So, even in boss fights and everything. So, but yeah, that's essentially how I go about playing Lilith, depending on the builds and everything like that. And those are just my favorites. So, right in the middle of doing another Lilith sniper build. So that'll be good times once I get there.
Cool. Cool.
Anyway, I know it's a bit of a longer episode, but we're going to wrap it up here with our final segment, as we like to call it.
We're going to end every episode in.
Yep, we're going to do this every episode, so just because we feel like we can, and why not? So, Drew, will you tell our lovely viewers what this segment is?
Yeah, so we started this segment last week. We didn't have a name for it. I came up with a name for it. If you don't like it, too bad. I'm calling it because it's the last segment of the show, I'm calling it Going, Going, Gun. All right. So, last time we talked about the Skull Masher. This time we're talking about the Hellfire. We figured that was appropriate considering we're talking about Lilith. So, the flavor text on the Hellfire says, "We don't need no water." That's a reference to that very famous song from the 80s. We don't need no water. Let the mummy flipper burn. So,
all right. So that same guy on Twitter, I want you to show me art of what a mummy flipper actually is.
Right.
If you're British, this is going to get really interesting.
For sure. So the Hellfire is a Maliwan SMG. Maliwan's my favorite SMG maker in all the games. It has incendiary × 4, so that's just a ton of fire damage, and accuracy between 78.7 and 93.5. So pretty good for an SMG. The cool thing about the Hellfire is every shot will ignite, which is going to give you massive damage over time bonuses. And the really sweet thing that I like about the Hellfire is that there are so few enemies who are resistant to fire in Borderlands 1. There's just really not many. You've got, badass fire skags and stuff, and stuff, and just a couple other random, fire damage type creatures and enemies.
Yeah, some enemies that have... Yeah, some enemies that have armor on them, which is not as if they look like they have armor in Borderlands 1, they probably do, so
right. But for the most part, fire is helpful against most enemies. So so that makes the Hellfire pretty nice for almost any player character, regardless of class. It doesn't matter. If you're playing as Roland, it helps. It'll still be impacted by Metal Storm and Impact, so now you're firing more rounds, and the actual bullets are doing more damage too.
Nice.
If you're using Mordecai, the Killer and Focus skills buff it. I mean, they're not buffing the elemental damage, but the bullet damage and stuff like that anyways. Brick, Revenge, and Rapid Reload, so you're talking about fire rate and stuff, and now you're just laying more bullets into them. And like Jeff just said, Lilith, and basically the entire elemental tree. I mean, it's just a lot of fire damage. Yeah,
legitimately, unless I am doing a hyper specialized build like the sniper build or the Radiant Warrior build, I really can't ever see myself. And I know, like I said, because of the tech pool and how it works, it's not necessary and blah blah blah. But I really can't ever see myself not playing as Lilith and at some point not getting a Hellfire.
I agree.
It's two great tastes that taste great together. That's that's just what it is.
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, that is basically the Hellfire from Borderlands 1. And that is episode 2. So yeah, if you now let us know what you think. We want to hear from you guys too. So go ahead and send us, if you have some really interesting builds that you like, or if there's anything that you like to change out or anything like that, because, we want to hear some other suggestions from you guys and how you guys like to play the game. So go ahead and get at us. Again, you can visit us on Twitter at avaulthunterspod. That is AVAULTHUNTERSPOD. On Twitter, and then you can also go ahead and send anything like that you have to our Gmail page, which is avaulthuntersguide@gmail.com. So again, AVAULTHUNTERSGUIDE @gmail.com. So go ahead and give us your opinions. Let us know what you think. Let us know what things you change, what things you wouldn't. Some fun things that you've ever had happen with the Hellfire, just any of that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, for our big final thing, that's kind of what we're looking at. How do you guys like to build your Lilith and your Roland? Let us know.
Yeah, cool. So thanks everybody for sticking around and talking some Borderlands with us. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
All right, sounds good. This is A Vault Hunter's Guide to the Borderlands, and we are signing off.